Greetings and welcome, everybody. My name is Keith, and I'm so grateful to be here with you this morning from all the way across the great grand United States of America in Washington State, more specifically on the Olympic Peninsula, the White Lotus Farm. And although I had hoped to be there in person with you all post Thanksgiving, of course, the way the cookie has crumbled, I am coming to you from here, from in my home. So let's get started. First, land yourselves here in your body. Take a deep breath. Notice your heartbeat. Notice your surroundings. Notice where you are in the world. A good way to do that is to listen to the closest sound, to the most furthest away sound. And as we begin the session learning about how to sync ourselves up with the rhythms of the seasons and to align our learning journey with the natural rhythms of the earth and the relationship with the sun and the moon, we must first start with where we are at in our original timekeeper, our heart, and the vehicle that is our body. So the more we get in tune with this micro level rhythm timekeeper of our bodies, the more we can apply those rhythms and recognize those rhythms as we move out in concentric circles around the medicine wheel, the wheel of life, the compass rose. This map that is the compass rose, the wheel of life, is pretty ubiquitous across all cultures, in my understanding, in some way or another. We are orienting ourselves to the sun, this life-giving force, and often very explicitly in a lot of cultures, mapping and assigning energies, recognizing energies that exist within each direction. So first, we begin in the east. And if you feel called to it, I invite you to close your eyes, but let's just embody this feeling in the east. Day has begun. The light is cresting over the horizon. Anything can happen, really. And as we begin to make our way out of bed and the sun starts arcing across the southern sky, we start to orient ourselves to the day, right? We get the right gear we need, we get the right tools we need, we make sure we have what will sustain us through the day. And the same thing in nature, right? Birds are going out and feeling out, seeking out, looking out for what they need to gather for the day. As the sun moves across into the south, right, what is the feeling of the south? The south is the place where the sun resides in the northern hemisphere. In the south, it aligns with noon or midday. So this is a full swing feeling, so to say. This is the focus. This is the task at hand. There's no getting around the hard work. We may have lost some of the inspiration and the motivation from the earlier parts of the day, but we are now in action phase. And as the sun moves into the southwest is the time of siesta, right? This is the peak sun. This is when even the lizards are hiding from the sun because it's so hot. Maybe not this time of year, but in this time of day, we still feel a natural dip in our energy, right? This would be a late lunch for people, but this is not coinciding exactly with our Western clock because of time zones and time changes and stuff. But pre-time, this Southwest time of the day was a time when we took a break. As we move into the feeling of the West, this is when the sun is setting. This is when we gather around the dinner table and tell the stories. This is the time when the geese are squawking and congregating in flocks. Then we move into the feeling of the Northwest, which is a time when we're gathering our thoughts for bed, brushing our teeth. The light is now dim, and the birds are roosting, certainly. Obviously, for some nocturnal animals, this may be their east, or their west is the east, and they're just waking up. So, but for us day-dwelling animals, our circadian rhythms are going to sleep. And then that feeling at midnight, right? On the average day, if we're not up late partying, in our younger days at least, there is this feeling at midnight, right, where the world is asleep. The sun is on the opposite side of the planet. Then as we move through the Northeast, into the Northeast, we are neither in night or day. We are in this liminal space between, and a lot of people, a lot of traditions really see this time as the most sacred time of the day, right? It's a time when you really can't be bothered. It's a time when the veil is thin, so to say, so you may be feeling into prayer or yoga or journaling or things of that nature. So now that we've gathered this feeling that we all know, right, this cycle of the day, and obviously the more we have unnatural artificial light cycles, and the more the further we get away from nature, the less we are totally synced up with these. But we can all imagine these feelings. There's a universal sort of theme happening, right? And so it is within these themes that we can then apply them out, these feelings, these natural rhythms of the day into the year, the life cycle of a person. We can see the components that make up an organization. We can even get down to making a checklist for a meeting. And in this presentation, we'll touch lightly on a few of these things, but really the main point of this is to recognize that there is a map that's happening, and there is a way that you can apply it, in my experience, universally, to your personal path, your community path, and the learning journey of anything you want to engage with. So we talked about the cycle of the day, right? These cycles can be applied almost directly to the feelings of the year, right? The feeling of the East coincides with the beginning of the day. The spring, the rising, we get oriented to the year, plant seeds in the Southeast, and the South is the work, the heat, the focus of the solstice of the summer, right? And then the summer moves into the Southwest, which the Southwest aligns with the siesta time, which again, in peak sun, peak heat, at least in August, a lot of people will take breaks, go on vacation. In the sunset time of the West, that is the sunset time of the year, the autumn equinox of harvesting, of gathering, of singing, of storytelling. And in the Northwest, this is the time of the year that we're in right now, This is a feeling of liminal states, right? This is marked by Halloween, Samhain, of the Day of the Dead. This is a very ancestral time of year, and this is a very reflective time of year. And just as it is in the time of night, winter solstice coincides with midnight. Again, lowest energy, very reflective time, time for integration, really, of resting. And as we have the northeast, the pre-dawn twilight, we have the midwinter of February, where a lot of festivals reside, the Chinese New Year, Carnival, etc. How does this coincide with the life cycle of a person? Again, we all can recognize this liminal state of the northeast, which is the veil of death and conception. Ultimately, just as the sun crests over the horizon, we see the birth of a child, of a human. That child orients itself in the childhood and then has the refined focus of learning, right, in the adolescent stage, where there's more responsibility to prepare themselves for the harvest of adulthood. And as we swing through from the south to the southwest is a time of wandering, of siesta, right? Taking a break from that focus and finding themselves before they begin that responsible, more grounded commitment of being an adult, of then giving back. And you'll notice the west-east axis has a connection of adults. This is generally a time when they have children and give birth to the other side. Again, just as the northwest time of the year is a reflective, dark, not quite celebratory solstice time, but very much can be a midlife crisis, a dark night of the soul, a sort of second wandering of really seeing how you're gonna spend your elderhood, which is the north, the bigger picture. So again, a lot of this is stuff we already know. It's obvious, but the more we start to make the connections of the layers of the concentric circles, the more we can start to attune and trust this map as an orienting guide. And again, we talked about the energies of these, the feeling tones of these. We can start to apply that out now conceptually and really think of these directions as orienting pieces to apply to the ways that we learn, the ways that we relate, and the ways we organize things. So you can take, see where your eyes are drawn to in this slide. I'll briefly touch on how this feeling tone bridges into practical application. Which again, the feeling tone in the East is inspiring, but in an organizational, practical setting, this is reaching out. This is like letting people know your ideas, letting yourself know your ideas. You're relating to the public. This is no longer in the dark. You're reaching out. And so taking these ideas, this inspiration through to the southeast, we are starting to get out of the rut of inspiration, right? We're starting to orient ourselves into doing the hard work, right? To getting the tools that we need to be able to manifest the thing that we're trying to do. Which again, the heat of the day, the energy of the South is the focus, it's the attention to detail, timelines, schedules, logistics. This is sometimes not the most inspiring place, right? This is the follow through. And this is where a lot of people and ideas get burnt out, or they never actually, not so much burnt out, but they actually don't make it into this phase of momentum of overcoming the all those beginning like um, front loading of back end work that makes it possible to do hard work. Again, the energy of the South needs to take a break, right? It needs to wander, it needs to connect with the earth, it needs our gaze to widen. And this is where we actually nourish ourselves, like by drinking water. Do you have water around you? Cheers. Yeah, this is actually like taking care of a place as well, is tidying up, is allowing yourself to feel a sense of you've done enough for now, and that it will be waiting for you. The hard work will be waiting for you when you get back. As we move into the West, the feeling tone of the West, right? The sun setting, the harvest, the community, but taking the time to appreciate, and to not just, only be about hard work and that we're moving on with things, but actually take that time to really celebrate and acknowledge and learn from, right? Harvest, gather. What did we actually do today, and how can we do it better? What was useful? That feeling tone of the West moves into the Northwest, which is, again, these North shields are a bit more big picture, a bit more liminal, harder to describe. Communing with ancestors, recognizing longer term blocks and obstacles that maybe ancestral passed down. And then we move into the feeling tone of the North, which is winter solstice, midnight. This is big picture. This is overview, coordinating, organizational vision, right? This is zooming out. And just as the Northeast axis is a liminal space, liminal time of day, of year, this is where we start to commune with a spiritual practice, mysterious things, unknown things, which are an essential quality to being human, right? Not everything is concrete. There is room for this lifting energy. And as you notice, the energies, they tend to be more concrete in the north-south and east-west axis, a little bit easier to pin down. And then in the ordinal direction, they tend to be more harder to pin down. Just as, the equinoxes and the solstices are a bit more defined, whereas the mid-winter, mid-heavens of sorts are a bit harder to describe. So we have talked a bit about how this might look in an organization, and then we can also look at how it looks personally. And feel free to take a snapshot of the slides to take more notes for later, as this can really be an endless map. So right, in an organization, we have the marketing, the outreach, the excitement, and then we move that into like, okay, how do we actually apply this? And then we actually apply it, and we keep track with schedules and timelines, and we take a break, we nourish, we rest, we relax, we eat, we beautify, and we teach, we appreciate in the West. This is also the east-west axis, is like the MC, is like someone who's gathering circles. This is also a place of song. A really beautiful, this is a culture creator, is the west axis. This really is the place where culture resides. Again, northwest, this may be in an ideal organization, acknowledging these deeper or healing components of mental health, vibes check, as they say, honoring wounds and past and all of that. The north would be big picture again, the CEO, the strategic planning, the coordination, leadership. And again, you can see sort of how the opposites work. North is big picture, south is detailed. East is sparking, the west is gathering. So you can see that in a personal place as well, just as you can in the organizational components. So sort of like now bringing this into the body, you know, there's like the positive components of this, and ideally we're taking ideas, we're taking our rhythms, and we're moving throughout the day, but oftentimes we can get stuck, right? We have to acknowledge the shadow side of these. So when you're in the East and you're inspired, but what if you never move into orientation, into action, right? This can actually be like just always starting new things, like, right, like being superficially inviting or excited, jumping to the West, right? Actually getting egoic and self-important about an inspiration without actually doing the hard work that earns the respect through that. Again, Southeast is a place of playing, but you know, playing is not always appropriate. Southeast is the place of motivation, but what if it's too intense? Again, this can come into, often show up as burnout in the South, which is, you know, S for stress, for sun, for solstice, for summer. The South can have a propensity for putting the blinders on, to focusing too much, holding tension in the body, and not actually relaxing in the Southwest, right? But in the Southwest, we have a tendency to relax too much, to stay stuck in the hammock, right? Southeast is stuck in the rut, but Southwest is stuck in the hammock. Too much wandering, never fully gathering and harvesting in the place of the West, which again, if you have earned it in a way, there is a tendency in the West to claim self-importance, to trip on your own ego because you have achieved something. Whereas the balancing act is to remember that place of beginner's mind and to give back. Right, midlife crisis in the Northwest is like things we can't control, and that too much reflecting on the past can lead to despair and paralysis. In the North, the shadow side is trying to do everything, micromanaging, big picture, control, but not actually allowing the different components to play themselves out. In the Northeast, this tends to be a place of spiritual bypassing, right? Not grounded, is using too much spiritual jargon to sort of bypass the realities of the world. So I just wanted to touch on that briefly, to recognize and to notice where you may be at in a cycle if you're feeling blocked. So you can apply this really practically to like an event. You can greet and you can open, you can get people motivated and playing, you know, keep track, keep on time, have a place to break, gather, integrate, etc. So in the course of a program, the east to west tends to be more in person, and the north axis tends to be more integrated, off-site or off-practice. So I could go deeper and deeper into all these, but really this is an introduction. And if you want to learn more, you feel free to reach out. I look forward to the discussion. The one thing I really wanted to offer up is really, as a teacher who is teaching and consulting teachers how to teach, I've trained organizations and teachers how to work with these natural cycles in a way that is useful and applicable. Really, my main goals for my students is the indicators of awareness. And I didn't make a slide of this, but we have in the East, we have common sense. We have in the Southeast, aliveness and agility. We have in the South, inquisitive focus. We have in the Southwest, caring and tending. We have in the West, service to community. In the Northwest, awe and reverence. The North, self-sufficiency. And in the Northeast, the quiet mind. If I can get my students, myself, my collaborators to start to orient themselves around these components, then we can really begin to move forward in a substantial way. And these can be applied to no matter what you're learning. My purpose here is to really to help people realize their own unique genius and to take them through the wheel of life, the wheel of their learning journey in a way that's in rhythm, with integrity, with heart, authenticity, and to notice and to commune with the shadow sides of these as well. So thank you for joining me. If you would like to know more about my work or have more resources, we'll share some of that in the talk and maybe be able to send out something, but you can find me on the internet somewhere, elementsembodied.org, and I look forward to seeing you in person and maybe going deeper into these when we can gather again. So stay healthy, stay aware, stay embodied, and until next time, safe travels.